In our last episode, the Red Sultan stood surrounded. His railways stretched across Anatolia, his schools multiplied, and the telegraph tied the empire together like veins of copper and glass. Yet still the same sickness spread. Revolts simmered, debt deepened, and in the heart of Istanbul, it was not the Sultan's ministers who ruled the empire's future, but Europe's bankers. This is Road to Destruction, the World Wars. When Abdulhamid came to the throne in 1876, the empire was already bleeding money. The Crimean War, the lavish navy of Abdulaziz, and the endless Tanzimat projects had drained the treasury dry. By 1875, the empire had defaulted on its loans. Interest payments alone consumed more than half of the state's income, and still Europe demanded more. At first, the great powers threatened. Then they intervened. In 1881, the humiliation became law. The Muharrem Decree created a new institution, the Ottoman Public Debt Administration, or Duyun-u-Umumiye-i Osmaniye İdaresi. Its purpose, they claimed, was to stabilize Ottoman finances. In truth, it was a foreign government inside the empire. The OPDA's headquarters rose proudly on the Grand Rue de Pera, a palace of marble and ledgers filled with French, British, Italian, Austrian and German officials. Its council represented the empire's creditors, not its people. These men, who spoke little or no Turkish, now had the legal right to collect and manage Ottoman revenues. Taxes on salt, tobacco and silk no longer flowed to the Sultan, but directly into European treasuries. Even the modest tolls of the Bosphorus were counted in francs and pounds. Ottoman tax collectors became mere agents of foreigners, bowing before inspectors from Paris and Vienna. For the first time in 5 centuries, the empire's finances were no longer in Muslim hands. The caliph's army now marched with wages paid by Christian creditors. Abdulhamid raged, but he was powerless. Without the OPDA, the empire would have starved. Its railways, schools, and even the lamps of Yildiz Palace burned on borrowed money. The Sultan, who spied on his own people, now found himself monitored by European accountants. The Red Sultan's hand still gripped the sword of Osman, but its edge was dull. Every reform he made, every loan he signed, came with foreign strings. The OPDA soon became a kingdom within a kingdom. Its foreign staff lived like pashas, immune to Ottoman law, collecting revenues from vast monopolies. In 1890, they created the Reji Company, seizing control of the empire's tobacco trade. Villagers who resisted the new taxes were arrested or shot by Ottoman gendarmes acting under European orders. The salt and tobacco that had sustained the empire now enriched those who called it a dying state. Pamphlets and underground journals mocked the situation mercilessly. Caricatures in Istanbul's coffeehouses showed Abdulhamid as a marionette, his strings held by bankers in London and Paris. Even loyal officials began whispering that the caliphate had become a colony in all but name. Yet not all in Europe sought to humiliate him. In Berlin, a different kind of courtship was taking shape. Germany, still rising, still hungry for influence, offered partnership where others demanded payment. German engineers arrived to build the Baghdad Railway, a steel artery linking Constantinople to the Persian Gulf. German officers trained the Ottoman army. German banks financed factories, ports and mines. To Berlin, the empire was not a corpse to be carved, but a patient to be revived, one who would remember his healer. Abdulhamid welcomed it. He did not trust Europe, but he could at least choose which power held the knife. Then, in 1901, came a proposal that struck deeper than all the rest. A letter arrived from Vienna bearing the name of Theodor Herzl, leader of the Zionist movement. He offered to erase half of the empire's debt in exchange for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. To Herzl and his backers, it was a transaction. To Abdulhamid, it was sacrilege. As caliph, guardian of the Muslim world, he could not sell the soil of Islam, least of all to a people whose return, he was warned, would defile the sanctity of Jerusalem. "I will not sell even a hand's breadth of land," he declared, "for it is not mine to sell, but belongs to the Ummah. Let them cut my body into pieces first." In a reign built on compromise, this was the one thing he would not yield, a refusal born not of politics, but of faith. Still, the arithmetic of empire was merciless. By 1907, the OPDA controlled nearly a third of Ottoman revenues. Its clerks, backed by European powers, dictated customs policy, import duties, even the pricing of wheat. Anatolia's villages starved while foreign shareholders debated profit margins in Paris. The empire's heart continued to beat, but each pulse was weaker than the last. Within the empire, rebellion began to ripen. The very schools Abdulhamid had built to create loyal servants produced the first revolutionaries. Officers trained in his military academies, men who had memorized his catechism of obedience, now questioned his authority. Railways carried not only troops, but pamphlets and ideas. The fear that had once united the empire was turning inward. By 1907, the cracks had widened beyond repair. The bureaucracy drowned in corruption, soldiers went unpaid, and the provinces muttered of famine and neglect. Europe continued to dictate policy through the public debt administration, while Germany tightened its influence through trade and military cooperation. To the conspirators in Macedonia, it was clear the Sultan had mortgaged not only the treasury, but the future. The revolution that took shape was not spontaneous. It was methodical, organized, an operation carried out by officers and bureaucrats who had studied how to seize a state from within. Railway stations were infiltrated, telegraph lines mapped, and sympathetic garrisons prepared. The empire that had once destroyed its janissaries was about to face rebellion from its own modern army. Inside Yildiz Palace, Abdulhamid still paced the marble corridors, revolver close at hand, the sword of Osman hanging above his desk, both symbols of a power that was no longer his. The empire's debt was paid in fear, its survival measured in interest rates, and the Sultan, who had once ruled through paranoia, now found himself trapped within it. The storm he had spent a lifetime suppressing was gathering beyond the palace gates, and this time, when the first shot was fired, it would not be in his name. In our next episode, the 1908 Revolution, Abdulhamid falls. The empire's debt still unpaid, its armies restless, its people disillusioned. From Macedonia, rebellion spreads like fire. The Red Sultan, who ruled by fear and caution, will finally be consumed by both. This is Road to Destruction, the World Wars.